Hi all, I have a fascinating game, at least from a theoretical perspective, to show you today. This is Leela against Stockfish, TCEC Season 17, Super Final, Round 92. In this game, the opening set is very interesting. It starts with Leela playing e4, we have e5, knight f3, knight c6, and now the Italian game, bishop c4. Not the Spanish game or Roy Lopez, which is bishop b5, but we're visiting the Italian game. Bishop c4, we have knight f6, knight g5, and now quite a common move here is d5. It's a very interesting gambit after d5, which is thought to give black an interesting game. After knight a5 here, we get this very interesting gambit, which is thought to be fairly good prospects actually for black. You'll see the quotation I've put up there. What is the object of playing a gambit opening? Is it to acquire the reputation of being a dashing player at the cost of losing a game? So Siebert Tarash apparently said that. I don't have any citations, so please, chess historians, don't chase me down too much on that. But apparently he might have said that. So we have that gambit, but in this game we have a rather different approach here. After bishop c4, knight f6 is played. Knight g5, but not d5. We have actually bishop c5. Now this approach is an innovation by Karol Traxler, who was born in January 17th, 1866. He died in 1936 at the age of 70. He was from the Czech Republic. He was a composer and Catholic priest. According to Nick the Fermion, this is from Wiki, bishop c5 looks crazy, ignores the threat on f7. Yet there is no known refutation of it. So that's Modern Chess Openings, volume 13, that was written. Is it possible that Leela, playing against Stockfish, could create some sort of interesting refutation? And you might think, well, it's so wild and complicated and rich, this Traxler Counter Gambit variation. Even if you did find a few clinical moves, how easy would the follow-up be? Okay, and what is the first move anyway? Well, this is less controversial. It's kind of well known here that to take on f7, it's best actually to take, the general consensus seems to be, it's best to take with the bishop for a more modest goal of just winning a pawn, not trying to fork the queen and rook. If you try and fork the queen and rook, there are videos about this Traxler Counter Gambit. It can get quite gory for white in general. After bishop takes f2 check, and it's fought here, you know, this is a maze of variations. It's fought here, king f1 might be the safest. If you play king takes f2, then that runs into knight takes e4 check, and all of a sudden there's the wrath of the black pieces after queen h4, threatening mate on f2, so that's a black parallel square to f7. And if g3, this is still thought to be a good line actually for white here. Not a good line, just about equal. If white plays the cards right, that's not great to get just an equal position. That's just a crazy variation, one of many. If we look at this again, instead of after knight takes e4 check here, so king g1 is quite a safe move in the circumstance. If king f1, then this is even worse actually. Here there's knight g3 check, and you can see that actually it's not just about winning the rook, it's about this bishop, and black could get an advantage here. That black has a big advantage there. Another worse way of playing it for white is king e2, and in fact in a classic game of Traxler against Reinisch, this was played in 1890, in Houston, 1890. It's a very funny, tempo-provoking move, king e2. And we had Traxler with the black pieces with his immortal game, knight d4 check. King d3 was played. If king takes f2, black's getting an advantage with knight takes e4 check, queen h4, and taking here, check and playing rook f8, and this is just very, very good for black. Black's getting a huge attacking position, and it could end horribly for white. But to follow the classic game, after knight d4 check, in fact king d3, and we had here now a fantastic move, b5, so offering the queen, so Traxler queen sacrifice, romantic era classic game. We have bishop b3, and again offering the queen, knight takes e4. It's taken, and here we see knight c5 check, and the king is being kicked around. We see knight e2 check, queen takes, bishop d4 check, king b4, a5 check, and you might suspect this is not going to end too well. So if king a3, then there's b4, checkmate. Here, this is the game, bishop a6 check, king takes, bishop d3, discovered check, king b4, knight a6 check, king a4, knight b4, discovered check, offering knight, and then the game ends. I hope you can spot the final checkmate for 100 points. c5 checkmate. So it seems a lot of fun in games in general is to be had when white plays knight takes f7, and this is the more well-known aspect of this. If there is a refutation, it's fought. It would actually start with bishop takes f7. It seems black gets, in general, a lot of counterplay, at least enough to equalize in general. But bishop takes f7, it seems a little bit less controversial for white to try and refute this counter gambit. And this is actually the choice that Leela made. But it seems here the power is actually in the follow-up, and you can say this of a number of things in chess. Like if you haven't got the follow-up, it makes the move you initially played often far less valuable. Now here there is some controversy in this position. Where should the bishop move back to? Should it move back to b3 or d5 or c4? You know, black's threatening to kick the knight and win the bishop. The bishop's a tactical liability. Here Leela actually chose bishop c4. And this is actually theoretically quite fascinating. The perk of bishop c4 is, in one respect, leaving the d5 square vacant means later, if white wants to play knight c3 to d5, leaving some space on d5 for this, to try and exchange off this key piece, could, it seems, potentially reduce the ferocity of the black counterplay. So, so Leela plays bishop c4. Bishop d5 has been played in actually a couple of high-level over-the-board games by two different world champions with white against Alexander Belyavsky, who seems, in a reasonable percentage of his Italian games, to have tried the Traxler Counter Gambit. So in one of them, with bishop d5, d6 was played, and this is following Karpov against Belyavsky. Yes, Anatoly Karpov in Moscow 1983. Karpov, it seems, was attracted to bishop d5 as a way of inflicting structural damage, potentially, with bishop takes c6. So Belyavsky plays queen e8, and we have this situation where, in fact, it seems as though white's trying to expose, with his own kind of gambit here, the black pieces, and undermine the d4 knight. But the knight goes back, some exchanges here. The knight goes back there, some structural damage a bit. The funny thing is, with this queen b5, it seems Belyavsky was still in the game here. And in fact, the game continued like this. So it's remarkable that Belyavsky, with this strange gambit, thought to be fairly unsound, is getting some counterplay from it. It's not too bad, the black position here. The king sorted itself out artificially. And maybe Karpov is thinking, what did he miss? It just simplified a bit. And here they actually agreed a draw. So Karpov, against this, couldn't refute. So is his follow-up as good with bishop d5. And even worse, Anand, Vishy Anand, yes, another world champion, against Belyavsky, played bishop d5, and in that game, instead of d6, Belyavsky ventured with queen e8, and in fact, let's have a look at that. d3, d6, Vishy Anand took on c6, so the upside of this bishop d5 move is to inflict structural damage. Okay, and that is achieved, but black's got some counterplay. In fact, black cheekily here, is okay, waiting for that to take on that. It doesn't really want treble pawn, surely. I think that would be the idea. But after knight f3, it seems, black's counterplay is actually evident as well, even though the king's not too classically placed on d8. It seems as though black here again, as Belyavsky must have been delighted, has a reasonable position and a tale to tell here playing this gambit. And in fact, is it just for a draw? Well, let's follow this through. Black seems to have quite an active position. Okay, c6 targeted a bit there. The king's messing around, it seems. And in fact, coming up, looks like there might have been a howler of some sort, because, the attempt at the fawn pawn, but that's taken. Dangerous e-pawn. Clamping down the c5 square. A knight wants to go there. But, after knight e4, knight c5, Belyavsky just takes on c5, and he's winning a piece here, actually. So yeah, maybe Vishy was in time trouble or something. Because, after taking the queen, then the f3 knight is hanging. Black will be a piece up. So that was Vishy Anand 2635 at the time against Alexander Belyavsky in the Linares tournament of 1991. So you could say that these games, has Belyavsky, Alexander Belyavsky, a very talented grandmaster, got a point. Black could be a piece up there. So against two world champions, he's played this thought to be kind of dodgy gambit. So the interesting thing here is, how does Leela provide a cold shower after bishop c4? Why would this be? Could we argue this is superior to those two games we just witnessed of two world chess champions? This is pretty high stakes now. This is quite an iconic gambit. So to see if Leela, what is the idea here? Queen e8 is played. Rook f8 has been tried in an ICS in a correspondence game by email in 2016, and it resulted in a win for white, as in Warrior WH Harrier, against Muzhin. So that game saw this, where white went on to win. So that was an interesting game. Let's go to the end of that for a moment, just for the record. So white's able to get a solid advantage, reinforce f5, get some connected pass pawns, and black resign there. Okay, so the move has been seen, at least in correspondence circles. This position with queen e8, with rook f8 instead, rather. But here we see queen e8 from Stockfish. Leela plays knight c3. So the key thing here is not to be in any rush to castle. The main priority is to seemingly, potentially get rid of this knight with knight d5 and keep this diagonal also potentially open if white castles. For the flexibility of f4, if white ever castles, then f4 is a pinned pawn. So this pawn is, right now, it's not pinned. So keeping the pawn not pinned by not castling. Displaying knight c3 for an immediate knight d5. We see knight d4, and now d3 is played here. This is stronger, it seems, than knight d5 immediately. If knight d5 immediately, black takes, then h6. This position should be fine, should be equal. So, and if white castled, by the way, there, then even better. Black's waiting for this h6. Black would be even better there, standing really well. So yeah, white wants to be very careful about this h6. So this d3 is played. d6 now. The interesting thing here, if c6, then there's knight a4 as well to factor in. So this just ends up being very messy looking, but white ends up with an advantage. It seems it is crazy. It is crazy with everything hanging. Yes, this is a variation of analyzed stockfish. Yeah, you've got a lot of pieces being attacked here. I know it's nonsense. It's a nonsense looking position. I know. But it ends up with white being better anyway. Yeah, white ends up being better. But so there are some dangers, it seems, of c6 because of knight a4 fundamentally. And if we choose bishop d6 as well, then there's knight f7 with the idea of grabbing eventually that bishop, which will secure white an advantage. So we have actually the move d6 being played. d6. And now this mechanism, knight d5, is used. And it takes off basically that f6 knight. We have bishop takes d5, much stronger to keep the line open, the bishop line open than e takes. Because then after h6, for example, this is going to be only a small edge for white technically. The black's got an active rook there as well. So we have bishop takes d5, queen g6. And now this nudging move, c3, which is another great perk of moving the knight, to be able to kick this horrible knight on d4, one of black's best pieces in the position. Black played now h6. If black plays knight e6, then white, which is, white is technically a pawn up, can take on e6 and then castle here. And this position with d4, it starts to be just a pawn up in the centre, with white having a clear advantage with zero controversy, basically. Okay, so we have the move h6, and Leela takes on d4, and the really clever thing coming up here after bishop takes d4. Can you guess, for 500 points, what is the move for white? So white to play here, and it tends to underline white's advantages in the position. So white underlines the advantages in the position with this next move. And it's f4, actually. Yes. It's too dangerous to move back, because queen takes g2, and then bishop g4 is a very, very nasty pin. And in fact, if white's only real method is a queen sack here, then it's not very convincing as a queen sack goes. Black's with a big advantage. So f4 though, e takes is played. E takes f4. If h takes g5, then f5 seals white a very nice advantage here after g4. And then taking on g5. This is a very, very nice position for white. The rooks are connected, hello. That's a big advantage. Holding d3 there, that's fine. Nice. So e takes f4 is played. And then knight f3. And in fact, Leela kind of guarantees quite a calm c now. Calm blue c. Which was actually such an anticlimax for me when I initially visited this game. I thought, should I even cover this game? Because Leela's made it look a bit simple here. But if you want to refute such a violently, dynamically aggressive gambit, and you want to play this yourself, this is good to know. If you can reach this simplification in your own games, this is good to know. So queen takes g2 was played. If bishop b6, then white just protects g2, and that's just going to be a huge position for white. It doesn't even matter about the a2 pawn, because white's position is just huge there. So white's getting a big advantage. So this has to be played, this queen takes g2. We can look at this once more, but it really has to be played. And in fact, even stronger here is bishop c2. You know, it's all good for white. Yeah. So queen takes g2, but I'm afraid the action is ending in this game because there's mass simplification about to occur after bishop h3 with queen e2. A lot of pieces are going to come off the board, and it's going to leave Leela here now just a piece up, basically. So the queens have come off, you know, and now there's even more simplification coming up here in this position. After king e2, Stockfish takes on d4, thinks that's the best move, taking away the pawn duo from white. But so bishop takes d6. White is material up, and in fact here Stockfish believes the best bet is not to allow the knight and bishop to coordinate much further here, potentially not immediately, because this is like rook f5 with the king there, but Stockfish doesn't move the pawn and allow you know, white to maybe move the king and then move the knight later. Doesn't allow this coordination. Stockfish radically plays this. So yeah, giving up the exchange for a pawn, leaving a position which, you know, maybe you think it looks a little bit tricky, doesn't it? Black has a pawn majority on both sides of the board, but and it's not that exciting now, is it? But if you want to kind of refute this gambit, maybe this is the sort of position you want to head for. You know, just the knight up. And there's a lot of manoeuvring now to try and prove that this is a win. So the black queenside pawns start moving, and Leela is trying to get into a position to provoke them a little bit more forward to make them a slightly weaker. So this knight is causing some hassle for the pawns. And it's going to be around here, after king g3, c4 is played, because if g6, then there's knight b4. And then knight takes a6. Yeah. So that is going to be winning a pawn. So the pawns are committed a little bit more with this position c4. And it means actually it starts to spell the end of black's queenside pawn majority now. So it's only this extra pawn here compensating for the whole knight. It's better to have the knight here. Yeah, if taking those knight f4 check, winning the rook there. So white's just a knight up basically for one pawn, and it just carries on quite a bit. Leela's technique, they're wondering about if it could be optimized a little bit, the endgame technique of Leela. So it carries on and on this game, but Leela's essentially a knight up, not too much work to do. The a pawn looks decisive in its own right as well. That passed outside a pawn. And I won't comment too much. The theoretical discussion I thought was more interesting than the game itself after being a piece up, really. I hope you'll agree, because yeah, it looks as though this is a bit tedious a little bit. Move 130 anyway. Black resigned here. So both engines thought was absolutely winning for white. So what can we say? It seems Leela's played a slightly different continuation to both Anatoly Karpov and Vishy Anand. Leela has played the bishop to c4, not to d5. Leela has not castled. Leela has gone for knight c3 to d5 to get rid of the knight. Leela's played for an immediate f4 to undermine black in the centre, and it led to a position material up. Stockfish didn't really like the potential coordination, it seems, of knight and bishop and sacked the exchange. So Leela was in effect, from this opening, a knight up for just a couple of pawns. Then after winning the one on the queen side, just a knight up for one pawn, and the rest is history. So is this a refutation of this legendary gambit, or not, the Traxler Counter Gambit? Maybe. Well, we might need even more powerful computers in the future to really get a better verdict. That's the beauty of chess. I mean, it leaves its own suspense. So maybe. So anyway, the interesting quotation there. What is the object of playing a gambit opening? Well, I like that reputation, but it's also in the modern era to win games as quickly as possible. Often I play gambits online to win quite quickly. You get a lot of piece activity. Often king safety is an issue. If you can checkmate quickly, you can get another game quickly. So for me, that's a good object of playing in a dashing style. You get quick results. You can go on to the next games quite often. So anyway, I hope you got something from this theoretically. Maybe an antidote that you might want to try against those poor unsuspecting gambit players at your chess club or online that want to try the Traxler Counter Gambit, and you want to ruin their fun with terribly cold shower moves as Leela played in this game. Okay, if you want to invite me for a game, by the way, kingscrusher.tv. If you register there, I'll be able to invite you for a game after. Or bit.ly/chessworld. Same thing. There's a suave chat forum at kingscrusher.tv/discord if you want to join the chat there and suggest games, etc. There's playlist bit.ly/Leela chess. There's bit.ly/stockfish chess. There's also bit.ly/Magnus Carlsen chess if you want to check out those. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.